Nuclear weapons are terrifying. They could level most cities to the ground, and the United States and Russia both have thousands of them, with 7 more countries having hundreds. Nukes are so scary that people often call for nuclear zero, a situation where all countries give up all their nuclear weapons. This will, of course, never happen, because nuclear weapons are the ultimate deterrent. If you have a nuke, then no country will dare attack you lest they risk total destruction. Except if you're attacking US troops in Afghanistan, or doing 9/11, and except for India messing with China on its border, or except for Iran attacking Israel or Ukraine attacking Russian positions inside of Russia. Okay, something is clearly off, so let's talk about it. If you ever read anything about nukes, then you know the argument I mentioned above about it being the ultimate deterrent. This argument states that nuclear weapons create a situation with mutually assured destruction. Basically, you have two sides that know if they use nukes, then the other side will strike them back with nukes, and they'll both get destroyed. As a result, neither side uses their nuclear weapons, and we live happily ever after. This is often the story we hear about the Cold War, where the US and the USSR avoided a third world war because both sides knew that it would end in mutual destruction. But then does that mean that you can never use nukes because you must fear retaliation? Well, not quite. You could always think about using nukes against non-nuclear powers such as Russia versus Ukraine. And if push comes to shove, you might even risk a nuclear war to get what you want. To understand how, let's take a trip back to the Cold War. During the Cold War, the US faced a major issue in Europe. The USSR had a greater conventional force than the United States because, well, the USSR is in Europe and the United States is not. This meant that America was scared of losing a conventional war to the Soviet Union and needed nuclear weapons to help out. So the solution is obvious, right? Just give the European powers nukes. The UK gets a nuke, and France, you get a nuke, and Germany, let's not do that. Seeing as the country was responsible for 2 world wars and 1 Hitler, both the USSR and the US were terrified of the idea of a Germany with nuclear weapons. So even though the UK and France were safe, the US needed a nuclear strategy to defend West Germany from the Soviets. This was called the problem of extended deterrence, extending the US's nuclear umbrella to West Germany to deter the USSR from attacking it. To this end, the United States sat down and thought up 2 ways in which you could use nuclear weapons without starting a nuclear war. Both came under the header of manipulation of risk. Let's take a look at each. Under the first strategy, if the USSR starts to overrun West Germany, use a nuclear weapon on some remote place in Siberia. The point of this is that you don't start a nuclear war. You're making it clear that you could have bombed Moscow but didn't. And if the Russians keep going, you'll be willing to blow everything up. The point is to scare your enemy to bits so they fold and stop attacking. The second strategy is no less risky and is called nuclear pre-delegation. The idea here is that you give some of your nukes to American soldiers in West Germany and you allow them to decide when to use said nukes. By doing so, you're essentially throwing the steering wheel out the window and giving up your control of the situation. But from the Soviets' perspective, your insanity is utterly genius. Here's the thing. Before now, the USSR thought, I can attack Germany. There's no way the US will start a nuclear war to defend it. But now the Soviets know that there's US troops in Germany who will 100% use nukes if they come under attack because their lives will be in danger. So the tables turn and the Soviets say, there's no way I'll risk a nuclear war for Germany's sake. The US probably started to employ a manipulation of risk strategy after the 70s, and most nuclear powers have it in the back of their heads even today. For example, Russia might not respond to Ukraine using drones to attack random places in Russia now, but if Ukraine were to ever pose a threat to Crimea, we would probably expect Russia to start manipulating risk. They would first use a nuke in some remote part of Ukraine and then slowly escalate more and more until they felt safer. This is the harsh reality of how nukes work. They're scary and could end the world, and they provide deterrence against world wars, but it might also end in Armageddon because countries manipulate risk. This video was made possible with help from the University of Georgia, bringing quality education to Georgia and beyond.